USC versus Notre Dame is one of the greatest rivalries in college football. None of us should deny that. But we're in jeopardy of losing this rivalry. Notre Dame wants to extend it for another decade. Meanwhile, USC is on the fence of if it's even worth keeping this rivalry around. They only extended it until 2026. And the reason why USC is contemplating staying in this rivalry game is because of conference realignment and the college football playoffs. With them moving from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten, they really see no need to continue to play Notre Dame every year when their schedule is already good enough to where you're playing about 4 or 5 quality teams, which makes your schedule difficult enough to where if you handle business, you'll be in the college football playoffs. And playing Notre Dame does nothing but jeopardize your chances of making it to the CFP if you do suffer a loss on top of an already loaded schedule, which I feel is a pretty good point. USC also is tired of Notre Dame having their cake and eating it too. Why should they have to go through the gauntlet of the Big Ten while Notre Dame gets to pick and choose who they get to play? And sometimes Notre Dame can get into the playoffs playing a more weaker schedule than USC. All of those are valid points, but it still doesn't make USC look good in this situation. They look soft not wanting to continue to play Notre Dame long term. You shouldn't be worried about trying to get to the playoffs if you haven't gotten there yet. If Notre Dame was in the way of USC getting into the postseason in the past and you had like a Florida State situation, that's understandable why you wouldn't want to play Notre Dame. But Notre Dame isn't holding USC back from getting to the CFP. USC is holding them own selves back from getting to the playoffs. When you lost to Maryland, you're having L's to Michigan and Washington, which you should have won those games. This Notre Dame rivalry had nothing to do with it. And I don't believe Lincoln Riley is the sole reason why USC wants out of this thing. Apparently, they're waiting to see how the expanded playoffs is going to be formatted, rather that be 14, 16, or 40 teams. Doesn't really matter. That's going to determine if they see it being worth keeping this rivalry game around. But I don't feel like playing Notre Dame has any factor on your playoff chances. If you're good enough, you should be able to beat Notre Dame. Georgia and Georgia Tech are not in the same conference. You don't see any one of those teams trying to get out of their rivalry. Iowa and Iowa State playing 2 different conferences. You don't see any one of those guys tripping on the rivalry game, impacting their playoff chances. If you handle business, you don't have to worry about that. And Notre Dame has already tried to accommodate USC. Normally, this game was played later in the season. Now, due to USC playing in the Big Ten, they've moved this game to earlier during the year. USC, by not playing Notre Dame, isn't necessarily a power play to force them to join the conference, but I do feel this situation is going to foreshadow what's to come for Notre Dame in terms of their reluctantness to join the conference. Teams eventually, with how deep these conferences are, eventually are going to feel like, the SEC schedule or the Big Ten schedule is already tough enough. There's no benefit in us playing Notre Dame. Because for one, if we beat you, it doesn't really beef up our resume that much when our schedules are already loaded. If we win our conference games, we're going to be in the playoffs. But if we lose to Notre Dame and we do take another loss in conference, it only hurts our chances of getting in. And you see, a few years back, when Brian Kelly was the head coach of Notre Dame, they were viewed to be a quality team that was good enough to make you look good to get in the playoffs if you needed that added beef to your schedule, because back then the SEC and the Big Ten weren't as deep as what they are now. So if you beat Notre Dame, you knew that it was going to make you look good in the eyes of the committee. And plus, it would be a game that you had a high chance of winning against a quality team. But with how this program has started to trend up recently under Marcus Freeman, beating Penn State, Indiana, Georgia, and the CFP this past year, programs are eventually going to be reluctant to play Notre Dame because now they're not an easy quality win that they used to be. And therefore, it's somewhat going to force Notre Dame to have to make that ultimatum. Do you continue to be an independent and keep playing Clemson and some of the other teams in the Big 12 or the ACC? Or are you going to join the conference? The ACC may not be around by the time Notre Dame chooses to join the conference, so you will have no choice but to join the Big 10. But teams are not going to see any reason to play Notre Dame if they already have a loaded schedule. There's no need to increase the difficulty unless you care about pride, respect, and bragging rights, which is what college football is all about. It's not all about making it to the playoffs. Rivalries are what has made college football such the great sport that it is. It's the fabric of this sport at heart. Rivalries, tradition, the hate, the pageantry. And with USC wanting out of this Notre Dame rivalry, it makes them look soft. I know you USC fans are going to be mad at me for saying that, but you look soft in this situation. A year ago, when it was alleged that USC wanted out of that LSU opener from last year that they won, they came out and said that we're willing to play anybody. And if you're willing to play anybody, you should continue to play Notre Dame. You should not see Notre Dame as a roadblock to getting you to the playoffs. You're a hypocrite when you're going to say Notre Dame's path to the playoffs is easier than ours, so we're going to make it even more easier for us by taking them off the schedule. Clemson doesn't view it that way. Texas A&M didn't view it that way. There are other teams that are going to be more than willing to play Notre Dame. Hell, I'll guarantee you Georgia will be willing to play Notre Dame, and they don't have no reason to but to show that they are the best team in college football. If you believe that you are the best, you should want to play the best every single week, not try to nitpick, oh, well, our schedule's so tough, we don't really need to play them. You can't get mad at Notre Dame for scheduling weak opponents when look at some of the random schools you're playing up against. You know, like, I just feel USC not wanting to extend this Notre Dame rivalry long term makes them look really soft because you just want a more easier path to the playoffs when Notre Dame isn't holding you back. You're holding your own self back. It would be one thing if you played Notre Dame and, you know, them beating them, despite them being highly ranked, still didn't get you into the playoffs. If you got the same record as another team that got in over you with a weaker schedule. But they just want to opt out of nearly a century-long